We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Vikings Uncensored. We have reached conference championship weekend. Of course, I don't need to remind anybody that the Minnesota Vikings are not a part of it, but it is what it is. And at this point in time, it's kind of reaching the lull area of player news and that kind of stuff, other than the continuous rumors of the Kirk Cousins saga that seems to roll every offseason lately. And
it's speculation season for every team that's not in the playoffs right now, basically.
Yep. But there's a bunch of coaching news and some stuff here that we will hit first. A couple of player awards this week given out, and then we'll kind of roll in and talk biggest positions of need going into the 2024 season for the team. Kind of run through the positions that we think they need to target and make the most emphasis on improving. And then, of course, at the end of the show, we will have our prediction segment and predict the conference championship games. So without any further ado, let's get rolling here. One thing before we do get into this, I do want to thank all of the Green Bay Packer fans who have come on to our Facebook page, left nasty replies and everything to the Jordan Love video that I posted last weekend after the Packers lost to the San Francisco 49ers. Thanks to Green Bay Packer fans, we have reached over 80,000 impressions on that post, 60,000 views of the post, 600 and some odd comments, and it's still going as of tonight. I noticed there were some fresh angry Packer fans jumping on and reading some of the comments. They're quite hilarious, so if you haven't done so, go check it out. Check the video out, and
give it a like.
It's on our YouTube page, it's on our Facebook page, and read some of the comments on the Facebook page. It's quite humorous. So, but anyway, let's roll on into it here. Coaching and general manager news of the week. Former player for the Carolina Panthers, Dan Morgan, has been named president of football operations and general manager for the team. So congratulations to him on that. Still looking for a head coach over there. The latest that I have heard, current defensive coordinator and a guy who was in the mix for the coordinator spot here before Brian Flores got it. Ejiro Evero is one of the leading candidates to take over that job. He's their current defensive coordinator. They've also this week interviewed Raheem Morris and Bucs offensive coordinator Dave Canales this week. So, as we've talked before, the Carolina Panthers coaching job is probably not one of the prime gigs available in the NFL, just for the fact that David Tepper seems to have the patience of a 3-year-old on crack.
Yeah.
But somebody will have to coach the team eventually, so we'll see what happens there. Biggest coaching news of the week, however, is apparently has not been officially announced yet as of Wednesday night here when we're recording, but for all reports, even Rappaport is pushing it, everybody else, Jim Harbaugh is your next head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. He was in for second interview on Wednesday, and out reports where they were not going to let him out of the building without a contract. Have not heard terms. What's that?
Who could blame him?
Yeah, what'd you say? They were rumoring as far as yearly salary for him.
15 mil.
Yeah, 15 mil. Hell, I'm guessing probably a 4 to 5 year deal. 15 mil a year. If you go in there and you suck it up after a couple of years, you're still going to get paid another 30 to 45 million to sit on your couch at home too. So
right.
Good job if you can get it. Other than that, it's been reported that Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson will get the Washington Commanders job.
Wow.
It's been reported as a done deal, but of course they can't announce anything until Detroit's season ends. So hopefully look for that.
I think Ben Johnson becoming a coach anywhere was basically a done deal anyways, from the sounds of it.
But hopefully we'll hear that announcement on Monday after the Lions season ends in San Francisco this week. Other than that, the Atlanta Falcons, of course, had a second interview with Bill Belichick, who continues to be the leading candidate there. Also had requested second interviews with Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn and offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Now, that was before the news of Johnson to the commies is pretty much done. Other than that, came out on Wednesday that the Green Bay Packers have fired defensive coordinator Joe Barry.
Yep.
After LaFleur saying a few weeks ago that Barry was going to be sticking around. They finally decided after the Packers season ended that he wasn't going to stick around as long as they said he was. So who goes to Green Bay for their defensive coordinator is up. I know there's a bunch of different social media sources that are pointing to Mike Zimmer as a potential defensive coordinator in Green Bay.
If that's the case, they're switching over to a 4-3 from being a 3-4 now, I would imagine.
Yeah, Zimmer ain't going to run a 3-4. So, well, I mean, he did run a 3-4 in Dallas, so I guess he probably could. But
I guess that's potential. Yeah, potentially.
But I don't.
Yeah, all speculation.
Yep. Speaking of Green Bay, though, cornerback and resident asshole Jair Alexander posted a goodbye to Green Bay Packer fans on Instagram and Twitter X this week. So he's apparently not expecting to come back next year. I know there'd been word earlier on here a few weeks ago that the Packers were probably looking to move on from him at the end of the year just due to random type stuff, including that whole deal where he got suspended for that game, the final game against us, for going rogue the week before and going out for the coin toss against Carolina and almost screwing up the call and all that other stuff. And I mean, like I said, when I listened to the guy's interview after that, it made my brain hurt. The guy is just, I'd rather listen to Anthony Tollison give his football takes than I do Jair Alexander. Love you, Ant, but I just had to throw that in there. Yeah, other than that, that's about it for coaching stuff this week. So there's still haven't heard much out of Seattle. Not sure what's going on up there. I know Dan Quinn had interviewed, and I'm not sure who else yet. And I think that's about it for what's left for openings. But some player news this week. Jordan Addison and Ivan Pace Jr. both named to the Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie team.
I think you could almost. I mean, obviously this kid didn't make it, but I think Blackman got kind of snubbed there a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, Blackman had some up and downs. Some of that stuff I think that probably cost him. Plus, he did. He wasn't a starter either.
And also the two players that did get named played really well this season, in all due respect.
So, yeah, I mean, Jordan Addison would be a number one wide receiver on most teams in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean the ones that got named to above Blackman and at the corners, Porter and Witherspoon, I think.
Mm-hmm. Ivan Pace coming out undrafted free agent.
Did exactly what he said he was going to do when everybody passed him up, and y'all done fucked up, and he proved it. So
yeah, no, I'm just hoping he continues to carry that aggressiveness and that chip on his shoulder going into next year.
I don't see why not. I don't believe he's the type of player that's just gonna,
No, I don't think so either. I think we got a gem.
I agree.
They're out of the undrafted free agent guys, and I expect big things. Expected big things from him this year, and I expect bigger things from him for next year. Then one other news: we signed cornerback AJ Green III, no, not the wide receiver, to a futures contract. He was an undrafted free agent in 2020 with the Cleveland Browns. Appeared in 29 games, made 40 tackles, 7 passes defensed, 2 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries in his time in Cleveland. So,
okay,
guy with a little bit of playing experience, and made a few splash plays here and there, but adding some depth to a fairly weak, at least depth-wise, cornerback room.
Yeah.
So any competition we can get there is more than welcome. Any other news items you got before we roll on to the other stuff?
Nothing
here?
In particular. Like I had been mentioning throughout the episode, everything is really, speculative at this moment as far as news goes, and where players are going and all that up here shortly in free agency. So,
yeah, and of course the as it sits this week, the legal tampering period starts in 7 weeks. So, Super Bowl is 3 weeks out, but 2 weeks out after this weekend. But there will be a lot of speculation going on. Teams are free to, of course, negotiate with any of their pending free agents at any point in time now. And the legal tampering period, like I said, starts in 7 weeks, and then free agency hits with a bang. So,
this ties in perfectly with what we're just about to nail down here as far as biggest needs in the offseason. So,
yeah. Okay, so I've got a list of my biggest needs by position here. Start out with your opinion first. What's the biggest position of need you think this team has?
Man, there's a handful I can think of, but somewhat we need a menace along that defensive line, whether it be at the 3-4 tech on the outside of it or at the nose tackle. We've been in dire need of a nose tackle, a true nose tackle, in a long time, and whether that be through free agency or the draft, we need a playmaker there along the 3 rushing and move. I mean, ideally, if we get a true nose, we could move Phillips to the outside, where I think he would thrive more as far as being forced to play a nose tackle, which he's kind of undersized for, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree on the defensive line. Jonathan Bullard is a free agent, like we talked about last week. But when it boils down to it, he should be a rotational guy. Should not be a starter, although he played decently this year.
We played the run very well this year compared to where we thought we were going to be, prior to the season panning out the way it did. But the thing is it's been a long time since I've seen a defensive lineman on the Vikings make penetration on a consistent basis, play after play after play.
Well, and that's the thing. We've gotten almost zero interior pass rush the last couple of years.
Exactly. Yeah, it goes out for exactly what I just said. Yeah.
I mean, Harrison Phillips, I believe, led all the interior pass rush guys with sacks, and he had 2.
Yeah. Our down guys that put their hands in the dirt aren't scaring a lot of offensive lines, in my opinion, as far as the pass rush goes.
No, I mean, Dean Lowry is still under contract.
In the times that he did see the field, I was not impressed. He didn't stick out to me at all. He was just a guy that was out there.
Yeah, filling a spot on the field, but not really doing a whole lot.
Yeah, the defensive line is in dire need of a playmaker.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm interested to see what Ja'Kalen Roy will do in his second season. He battled some injuries and stuff this year. Made a few plays when he was in there.
He played very well. I mean, I liked what I seen from him with his snaps that he was given.
Mm-hmm. Sheldon Day, when he came in, he filled that nose position, I think, a little bit.
But he's getting kind of long in the tooth, and he's kind of a journeyman as well.
Yeah, there again, he's just another guy. But he's a rotational guy. I wouldn't mind keeping in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We talked about Kyrus Tonga. Disappointed this year. I expected way more out of him than we got.
I mean, I think you look towards the free agency to fill that spot, because a lot of the times when you get these college guys, they're not quite up to where you want their bodies to be at this next level along in the trenches.
Yeah, it takes a year or two for them to get into the weight room and get that muscle build up.
And the ones that do come in right away and make an impact coming out of college that first year are just physical, specimens, like your Aaron Donalds or your Aaron Donald will go. My mind's at a blank right now, but Kevin Williams is another good example coming out of college. That did very well along the D line and in the trenches. So,
well, and of course, one of the hot rumors has been that the Vikings are going to be in on going after Christian Wilkins from Miami.
I have a feeling, not a good feeling, I shouldn't say that, but I have a feeling that he's going to stick in Miami. I mean, it would be a steal if we could. Yeah, I think so. It would be a huge pickup for us if we were able to get him to come over here out of Miami. And the big thing would be, I think Flores would have to be a big part of that.
Yeah, I think
I think Miami wants him, and that's another thing too. I mean, if he's been there, he feels appreciated by the organization. As much as I'd like to have Wilkins be here, I don't see it happening. I mean, DJ Reed's another good name out there that's going to be a free agent as well that I would be taking a good look at as well.
Yeah, and we'll dig into some of the potential free agents and stuff here coming up in the next few weeks too, just to kind of see who's out there. But yeah, a couple of those big name. I'd like to get a big name guy here. I don't want to just sign some of these, nobodies.
Somebody up front. That's where it all starts. Right.
We need our Dexter Lawrence or Kenny Clark or that that kind of guy that disrupts the shit out of that front line.
Yep.
So
I mean, what is done is what is done, but I think it wouldn't have been a bad idea to bring in Akeem Hicks previously this year just to.
Yeah, I'd have brought him. I'd have brought him in during the season.
Yep.
He's not the full-time player he once was, but for situational pass rusher and that.
A lot of those veteran guys like him do thrive in that rotational role once they settle in and they realize hey, this isn't too bad. They do thrive in it as long as they are mentally where they need to be, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, anyways, that's all mute at this point.
Right.
So, but yes, defensive line is a big place of need in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. All right, so then I'll go next here I'll stick on the defensive side of things, and gonna go edge rusher. As it sits right now, we have 2 edge rushers under contract in Patrick Jones II and Andre Carter. Carter barely saw the field this year, and Patrick Jones did not. take
I
that.
think Carter's a good example of what I was just saying about a college player. It takes a lot coming in and playing on the defensive line, or rushing the edge like Carter was a year or so. Maybe we'll see more out of him this next season. But yeah, that's definitely a need.
And that was one of the knocks on Carter and why he went undrafted was he's doesn't have that bulk that you kind of need to. And he was injured too and didn't play, didn't get a chance to play a whole lot. But so there's free agents out there. There's multiple guys that you could bring in as a secondary guy. I think they still make a push to bring Danielle Hunter back.
I think Danielle. Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like part of me says Danielle wants to go and see what else is out there. Like I said, mentioned last week. I think that should be right up there at the top of priorities is getting Hunter to stick around.
Well,
he's
they asked him at the end of the season if he wants to come back, and Hunter's a pretty quiet guy in the interviews and stuff. He doesn't really say a whole lot. And one of the reporters asked him.
He leads by example. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not a very vocal guy.
They asked him if he wants to come back. He said, "Yes, sir. I want to be a Viking." So I think there's a chance that they get a deal done there. And Danielle Hunter has typically always given a pretty good team-friendly deals when he's done his contracts. Maybe too much at times,
which has led to complications at some points.
It does.
Yeah.
But
I think that's 1A or 1B of the guys that we need to figure out how to get back. And Jefferson's still in the contract, but and I've heard that's getting pretty close to being, that could be a surprise signing here shortly. Sooner than later.
Yeah, there's some talk going on, that there's that trio of wide receivers. You got Jefferson, you got CD Lamb, and you've got Jamar Chase that are all kind of pushing for contracts. Chase is a year behind Jefferson, but they
CD
all kind of But and I saw a deal here today where the I forget who it was put it out, but they're kind of projecting Jefferson getting 34.5 a year because he wants to be the highest non-paid quarterback, and Bosa right now is the highest at 34. So
when Jefferson's played at Jefferson level, he's totally worth it. Every single penny of that.
And
he really is.
And when you get to that point, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback back there. If Jefferson's on the field, he's going to get the ball.
And the craziest thing is, I don't think we've seen the greatest version of Jefferson yet. I think this year coming up is going to be huge. Granted, everything that can go right goes right. As far as health goes and everything like that, I think we're set up for a huge year out of Jefferson. And I think next season we could possibly have 3,000-yard receivers. We were on pace for it this year, except for shit happened.
Right.
So,
it would have easily happened because Jefferson got there even missing basically 8 games. And
this ties into another thing. Well, go ahead. Continue. Finished. Yep.
I was going to say Hawkinson got close, and Addison was less than 100 yards away. So,
and that, to me, that all comes back around to what another thing that we need to talk about is there's a glaring need, and that comes down to whether or not what's going to happen with Kirk and that quarterback. It's going to be a need, and it is a need because we don't know what's going on there right now. And
I will argue, even if Kirk comes back on an extension, it probably is not going to be more than a couple of years. But we need to decide what's going on in at the backup quarterback position too, because we showed this year that the whole thing with Kirk was always the Iron Man always healthy.
This year, we were taking it for a ride starting in mid-season, thinking that we might have had a decent backup, and then coming to find out we didn't.
We thought we had 3. We thought we had 3 good backups, and it turns out
none of them were. Mullins came with his gunslinging mentality, but ultimately, what happened was what happened. So,
and that was the infuriating thing with Mullins is when he wasn't making bonehead, idiotic mistakes, the guy can throw the ball.
Yeah, that's just it.
I mean, he threw for over 800 yards in 2 games versus Detroit. Of course, he also threw
which
8
is amazing.
interceptions.
Which is amazing, but it doesn't translate to wins, though.
No.
I mean, regardless of what happens with the Kirk Cousins situation, whether he gets signed or not, we need to go get the guy that's going to lead this team within either this year, the next year, or the year after. Go up and get your guy.
I still maintain, and Ben Gessling was on Paul Allen's show on Tuesday, and he echoed this again. He said, what he's hearing, what he thinks is, if the Vikings determine that one of those top three, whether it be Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, is their guy, and they can go up there to get him. He said they're not going to bat an eye at throwing a couple of first-round picks and additional compensation to go get them. He said they'll do it.
Yeah, if there's any truth about what was told to us about they're wanting to go get Richardson,
and
that's still going to be there. They covered the guy.
It's been reported by many guys they were going to do it. But to kind of piggyback off what Gessling was saying, he said if they determine that their guy, they want that guy, and they can move up to get him, they're going to go get him. They won't hesitate. They're going to do it.
Exactly.
But
like I said, to close the show last week, it's a defining year. This is a defining season for this management and Kevin O'Connell this coming season.
But to finish off, though, what he also finished with was, if they can't go get one of those guys, or they determine, whatever, that they're not able to do it. He said they're not just going to pick a quarterback at 11. They're not going to do a Rick Spielman and panic and pick Christian Ponder.
Thank God.
He said, if those three quarterbacks are gone and they're still stuck at 11, they're probably, they might try to trade back later into the first round if they determine that J.J. McCarthy or a Bo Nix or whoever is a guy. He said they're not going to pick a quarterback that they don't want just because they need to pick a quarterback.
Now, if there's a guy that's like you mentioned, like Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy or Penix Jr. that slips to the second round, and the value of them is there, and what the hell,
Yeah.
I guess take a flyer, on one of those guys. And
that if they don't get their guy, they'll go out and they'll find a bridge quarterback. They'll go try to get a Gardner Minshew or.
Yeah. I love me some Minshew. I always have.
Oh, I do too.
And he's proved this season that he is capable of taking a great backup quarterback, to say the least, in Minshew's case. But he's proved that he's capable of taking a team and getting some wins and stacking some wins. He damn near week after week.
And they damn near won the division over there in the AFC South. So
right, exactly. He is right up there. I put Mayfield got the whole season. He got to start out, but I put Mayfield and Minshew right up there. They're right as far as talent wise goes. Mm-hmm. Granted, Mayfield has a little bit more get up and go to his game, but Minshew, I love his character and the leadership that I tend to see him bring to the locker room, and the way guys play for him. And
guys love him. I mean,
the thing is with Minshew, you can see that he's having fun out, like with a player like Favre used to be,
Mm-hmm.
you look at him and you know that he's having fun out there playing, and I love that. And the thing is, it translates to wins as well, which is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
right,
and I think going back to these Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy and Penix Jr., I think those guys they're worth a second round grade at least, and those guys would be a good pickup in the second round if that's what it comes down to.
Now,
it wouldn't be a shot in the wind like Jaron Hall was last year in the 5th round,
No. Do they fall to the second round? It remains to be seen, but.
Well, a couple of those or one of those three is going to fall. There's not going to be 7 quarterbacks taken in the first round this season.
No. Of course, I saw, it is stupid speculation in mock draft season and everything else. For those of you who remember former Chicago Bears coach Mark Trestman.
Yeah,
he put out a deal today where he said that the Bears would draft Bo Nix number 1 overall.
that maybe they took Trubisky. Who's to say? Jesus.
Yeah, no. If you draft Bo Nix number 1 overall, you should be fired before the next team picks.
Well, I mean, you better know what you're doing if that's what you decide that you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean,
there was all that talk here.
Complete and total transparency.
Going first
complete transparency. I'm not a Bo Nix fan. I think there's a lot of holes in this game that the Oregon offense covered up, and I've started to do some research and stuff, and I'm going to start doing some breakdowns coming up here in Rhinos Rants episodes coming up, and Bo Nix will be one of my first guys. I've already started working on him. But, that aside, he's been consensus quarterback 5, quarterback 6, and all of a sudden a guy who got fired because he was a piss-poor head coach thinks they should take him number 1 overall.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, moving on. Finish up the quarterback thing. Jaren Hall has to show us something. He showed in Green Bay that he's not ready to be a quarterback 2 right now.
No, that stage was a little too big, I think, for Jaren Hall at that moment. I'm not saying he will never turn out to be anything, but
no, but he's
not ready by no means right now to be more than a third or second string quarterback.
I don't think he's qualified to be well, I wouldn't say qualified, but I don't think he's ready to be a second stringer right now.
Yeah.
So,
but there's still a whole offseason there and everything to go through. So
yeah, and he definitely can make development between year 1 and year 2, which is to be expected. But you can't rely on that right now.
No. And if you have the opportunity to go out and get somebody that we've been talking about as far as the top 3 picks or somebody that you covet like that, then you go out and you do it regardless of who you got on the roster at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And I think if you make
goes back to who's going to be throwing him in the football as well,
Yeah. And I think if you make the determination that you're not going to be able to bring Kirk back because he's going to want too much money or whatever length the contract too long or
the whispers are also about 6 weeks of being missing, and he might not even be able to start till week 6 or 7 next season.
Yeah, they claim he's ahead of schedule, but I've heard otherwise too. So, but I mean, the point I was getting at is if you determine by free agency that you can't get, you're not going to be able to bring Kirk back, when that legal tampering free agency period opens, I'm on the phone to Gardner Minshew's agent and saying, hey, we want you to come in here, be a bridge quarterback. We're going to working on getting a young guy, and you replace Mullins with Minshew.
Yep. I would either Minshew, like I said before, I'd be happy. You could either get on the phone with Minshew or Baker Mayfield, and at this point, I'd be happy. I
think Tampa Bay's bringing Mayfield back. I don't know.
That's possible. Yeah, he's still a free agent, but I mean,
he's a free agent, but Mayfield's going to get paid. Where Minshew, I think you can probably get at a reasonable price. $8-10 million.
Right.
So anyway, we spent enough time on the quarterbacks. Let's move on to the next position here. My next one is interior offensive line.
Nice. Good.
Of course, Dalton Reisner is a free agent at left guard. We could still stand to upgrade at center. Garrett Bradbury, even though he's played better the last couple of years, still gets manhandled by large, fast interior defensive linemen.
And it's questionable at right guard too. Could be an upgrade as well. To be completely honest.
Second half of the season, Ingram played fairly decent. We ripped him real hard that first half of the season, but he played better the second half. And
that was how it was his rookie season too. He played like shit at the first half of the season, and then they started coming back around the second half of the season. So I don't know. I mean, but if you have the opportunity to go up and upgrade that position, then you go do it too. Like I just mentioned with the quarterback position, if you have an opportunity, you don't just settle for decent. If you got an opportunity to go out and pick somebody that's great or pick up somebody that's great, you go out and you do it.
Yeah.
At the right price, of course, in this league.
Right. Now, that being said, that this is a little bit weaker interior offensive lineman draft class, so there's a couple. If you can find a center in there, Garrett Bradbury's contract is easy to get out from under this year, and it was set up that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a position of need that they're going to have to look at.
I could see it going center in the draft or going and getting a center that's been established already as far as free agency goes.
Yeah, I mean, good centers usually don't end up on the free agent market, but
they don't. And if they do, that's because their contract is up and they're looking to go somewhere else.
Yeah. So we'll see on that one. Like I said, like our buddy Drew says all the time that, guards, a lot of times it takes 2 to 3 years for them to develop to a point. So Ingram's going into year 3. I think he showed enough improvement to where you don't just cut bait with him.
No.
I think, bringing in competition's always a good thing, whether it's at center, whether it's at one of the guard spots.
Well, bringing in good competition is always a good thing because then you always end up with a decent depth. Then usually it seems to be anyway. So
exactly, and that's what killed us so much at the end of the Zimmer Spielman regime is we were top heavy in the roster, but there was no depth. Yeah,
at all. There was no once anybody on the first string of both sides of the ball. If anybody went down, then that was it.
Mm-hmm.
The depth was not very good.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the Zimmer era and the Spielman era.
Right. What else you got for positions in need?
Running back. I never realized how important it is to have a. I thought we could get by with Madison. He proved me wrong. This year. Although Ty Chandler, the gambler, he looked pretty good in his snaps that he had, but I would be okay with if we go and we get I would be okay with bringing somebody in at running back, that's either got some sort of credentials to his name or getting the young guy in the 3rd or 4th round of the draft.
Mm-hmm. If we don't have a 3rd round pick this year, but I'd love a guy like Blake Corum out of Michigan, but I think he's probably gonna go in around that late 2nd to 3rd round,
mm-hmm.
and I don't think we're going to spend a draft pick on it that early. There's some other guys that started doing a little look on that, would probably fit in here pretty well, as far as you're going to have a running back that can catch the ball, do screen passes, that kind of stuff. Some guys there's a lot of guys that are doing that. Some of them have a little more issues picking up the blitz, things like that. So you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have to improve the run game, and I don't know that all that is on the running backs themselves. Some of it is on the coaching, because I do think a lot of times Kevin O'Connell just abandons the run way too quick. When Zimmer was here, he would
you abandon the pass,
run the ball, and then if all else fails, run the ball. And O'Connell's 180 degrees the opposite way. It's throw the ball. And
I think O'Connell's going to find his cauldron of plays that he feels comfortable with. He's going into year 3. I believe he's going to get better at that. He's going to find his own good mix, and I believe that will come. And it all comes with good players and execution of the plays that he calls as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I think running backs a need, in some sense. And then I got one more position too that I think might be a little bit surprising, but with the potential and most likely loss of Hitman in all respect and great career in his time here in purple and gold, I think he hangs him up, to be honest with you. But we're going to need a little bit of help at safety, I believe. I like what we got in Metellus and Bynum, but behind them, it's kind of question marks. I like Theo Jackson, and he played really well in the snaps that he had this season, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to give safety a look to us in the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah,
maybe mid-round. And if you got a chance to go out and get somebody in free agency that's got good a backlog of play, then maybe you take a shot on him too, given the right price.
Yeah. I mean, I think as it sits right now, Harrison Smith's not going to be back on his current contract. And I am not convinced that Harrison Smith doesn't just retire at the end of the year rather than try to go to another team at 35 years old.
Yeah.
So as it sits right now, Metellus and Bynum are your starters next year. Both have deserved it. Both played well this year. Josh Metellus,
I don't think you
played
mess
out
with
of his
Metellus
mind
where
this
he's
year.
going. I think you bring in somebody to take over Hitman's spot. I think you let Metellus continue to do what he's doing in the spot that he's doing it, because he's doing it very well. And I think you move somebody into where Hitman was playing previously, whether that be on the left or right side of the field. That's interchangeable. Like you said, free safety, strong safety.
I mean, you would like to say that Lewis Seaton's going to be that guy, but
you would like to say that, but I mean, in the last 2 seasons, there's nothing out there that leads me to believe that would be the case.
No, me either. I'm going to piggyback off of that, and go with the other part of the back end. I think we need another cornerback too. We need, and that was what happened a lot of it later in the season when the defense started getting figured out, is they realized that we don't have that big tall corner. We got shorter guys back there, and if they start chucking it deep to these 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" wide receivers,
right? They're just like fucking, big boys are in town, and they can just go up and get it, over our guys.
Yeah, and I mean, Byron Murphy Jr. played fairly well. He had a few ups and downs and got hurt, but Caleb Evans shined in a few spots and then had a few spots where, he struggled, but that's to be expected from a young guy.
Right, and he was a later round draft pick as well. He wasn't a early pick.
Yeah. And
I believe
Blackman was the same way. He played really well in spots and had some hair pulling moments in other ones.
I think he continues to get better, in my opinion. I think Blackman's going to be a star in this league.
I do too. I like Blackman. He had some of those rookie bonehead moments this year that is to be expected with young corners.
Yeah. And a lot of that goes back to just communication too on defense. I think that might have been like mental errors or just a lapse in judgment on what he should have done at that moment. And with experience, that hopefully you hope that those mistakes go away. So
yeah, but I still think we need to get like I said a taller corner, 6'2", 6'3" corner that can play man coverage. And I've seen a lot of mock drafts already that, as much as it irritates me to see it, they're mocking a cornerback to the Vikings in round 1.
Every season it seems like we get
that's just the go-to. Oh, Vikings are up, they're going to take a cornerback. We've drafted like 8 cornerbacks in.
That's because teams have started to play nice towards the end of the year.
I don't want to take a cornerback in round 1. Now there are some guys that would be worthy of it. Kool-Aid McKinstry, or there's a couple other guys that are going to be up in there that could be taken. But I think I would rather. There again, all these cornerbacks are an unknown coming out of college. I haven't looked at the free agents yet to see who's going to be out there as far as veteran free agents that could step in and fill that role. I think that's the route they probably need to go.
That's possible,
because we've got all these young guys back there. You need some more veteran leadership. Granted,
Murphy's got 2 more years on his deal.
Yeah.
So
he'll be back, but he plays the slot more than anything. So we need an outside guy.
I believe the defense has the most holes as far as 3 phases of the game goes. I think the defense plays well as a unit in some aspects, but there's definitely the most holes on the defense as far as what our needs go.
I agree.
I
agree. All right, you got any other spots you want to hit, or you good on what you got?
Kicker, just to throw that out there, kicker.
Yeah.
Get it figured out.
Definitely a kicker. I'm done with Greg Joseph.
Just a small little toss out there. We don't need to talk too long about kicker, but yeah, kicker would be a great need to get that figured out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right,
that's about it.
That's all I got too, basically. Linebacker, inside linebacker is a potential if Jordan Hicks doesn't come back. But I'll just throw that out there as a
right. Yep.
lower need, but still a need.
Every level of the defense, we have somewhat of a hole. I mean, that needs to be filled. That's
right.
In some way or form.
Yep. All right. So with that, we will move on to once again our regionally well-known, fairly famous, and requested by tens and tens of people for our prediction segment, where we look at the important games of the week and give our less than expert opinions, I guess, on what's going to happen. But as we mentioned before, we have reached conference championship weekend. So we have, starting off on the first game, we have the Kansas City Chiefs going to Baltimore to take on the Ravens.
Man, at this point, how do you not choose the Ravens to win it all? The Ravens, out of these four teams, I think the Ravens are the hottest team out of all four of these teams left, going for that title.
Mm-hmm.
So my pick right now to win the Super Bowl is the Ravens, out of these last four teams that are duking it out. But I think the Ravens take out the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs go home, and Ravens move into the Super Bowl there on the AFC side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Baltimore Ravens fan, but I don't want to have to be watching the Super Bowl and see Taylor Swift 87 times in the freaking press box.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Lamar Jackson is balling right now, to be completely honest.
He is.
He's out of this world. There's also, talking about Taylor Swift, there's also talk, Kelsey, Jason just retired this past week. There's also talk about this possibly being Travis Kelsey's last season as well as an NFL player. So that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on as far as if you're a Chiefs fan or even just a fan of the NFL in general. Both Kelsey brothers going to tie it up this year and hang it up, and I look forward to that happening too. But anyways, Lamar Jackson tearing it up right now, doing great things over there in Baltimore, and I look for that to continue and for them to enter the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm going with Baltimore as well. They're the most complete team in the NFL right now. I think they're playing very well. John Harbaugh is a hell of a coach. He's been a hell of a coach for a lot of years.
For a long time, man, for sure.
And so yeah, I think he's going to have them ready, and I think they're going to beat Kansas City and go on in.
Yeah.
All right. Then the final game, we have the Detroit Lions going to Santa Clara, to take on the San Francisco 49ers.
I think that week off for San Francisco might have hurt a little bit, to be honest with you. The way they played this past weekend against Green Bay, and they saved the best of that game for last. So they came out and they tightened up, and they went on to beat the Packers, which was great. Wide left for Anders, and then
across the body
for Mr. Love, all those great Green Bay quarterbacks in years past. So. Karma's a bitch. We got ragged on all the time about having a kicker that couldn't kick the big game winner, and it comes back and bites him in the ass. So
yeah, the Green Bay Packers managed to recreate two heartbreaking Vikings playoff losses in one quarter. So
yeah, it was really good to see. If there's one thing I enjoy watching other than my Vikings win, it's the Packers losing, to be honest with you. So but I think the week off might have actually hurt the Niners in this case. They came out really slow and sluggish, not really knowing what they just looked like they came out slow. And let's hope that now that they got this divisional round in their belt and they got their engines running again, hopefully that carries over in the championship game and they can roll over the Kitty Cats and enter the Super Bowl, so we don't have to talk about Detroit going to the Super Bowl for the next however long it may be. So,
right. All right. So you're picking San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm hoping. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go on a little bit of a quick mini rant here. Seeing all this stuff across social media and things like that, where we're supposed to be happy for the Detroit Lions making it this far, and screw that.
It's about as bad as giving out participation trophies.
Yeah. well, at least a team from the NFC North is going to go, we don't get a goddamn trophy if a team from the NFC North goes to the Super Bowl. They don't go, oh, hey, Minnesota, here, you get a ribbon because you're in the same division as the Detroit fucking Lions. And I got into a little conversation that was going on. Josh Metellus actually started in on this, and he came out. He had made a comment. He's like, I don't understand how fans can, cheer for Detroit. I mean, he said, you cheer for your team and your rivals. You don't cheer for them.
Right.
I made the comment, cheering for the Detroit Lions to go win the Super Bowl is like being happy that your next door neighbor stole your wife from you and is taking her on a trip to the Bahamas, and you're standing there waving as their airplane takes off from the airport.
That is a great example and analogy for sure right there. That is perfect.
Yeah. I mean, do we want to be the only team in the NFC North that does not have a Super Bowl ring?
God, no.
Hell no.
I don't want to see Detroit go to the Super Bowl first before. I've never even seen the Vikings play in the Super Bowl. I don't want to. Sure as hell don't want to see the Detroit get there before we do.
Exactly. I mean, I don't care if it's Green Bay, Chicago, or Detroit. I hope every damn one of them goes 0-17. I know that's impossible because they play each other twice a year, but I don't want them to win a game. I want them to look god-awful, terrible week after week after week. I am not going to cheer for the Detroit Lions. Screw Detroit. Their fans have become just insufferable douchebags. They're acting like they're the 2019 New England Patriots after winning 2 freaking playoff games. I would tell them to act like they've been there before, but they haven't. So I guess they don't know how to act when it gets to this point. But
there's so many years before this season where when you talk about the NFC North, you rarely even brought up the Detroit Lions.
No. And then you've got these
the Bears, the Packers, and the Vikings, and then you had the other team, and that was in the division.
And you've got, that one guy with the sign that went viral around there holding up, one knee down, and it showed the Vikings, two kneecaps down. They showed
Hawkinson and Higbee,
the Rams. But, and then it was like, well, they were just talking about they didn't play the Vikings in the playoffs, so they were talking about taking out Hawkinson's knees. The Detroit Lions, and our buddy Ted Glover mentioned this on Wednesday in our Gallahorn group that we're part of on Facebook. The Detroit Lions have become the dirtiest team in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Kirby Joseph is a dirty player.
Yeah.
Of course, Dan Campbell was on the 2009 New Orleans Saints team, and he learned how to coach under Sean Payton. He was the tight ends coach there for 4 years.
Yeah.
So no, screw Detroit. San Francisco's going to win. Shut the Detroit fans up. Send them back home.
And then they won't see the NFC Championship game again for another fucking 60 years.
Yeah. Super Bowl is going to be San Francisco and Baltimore.
There we go. Bingo.
All right. And with that, we actually went a lot longer tonight than I figured we were going to, but want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know it's kind of in a slow period right here now, and there's not a whole lot to talk about, but things are going to start heating up here very soon with free agency just around the corner. And after that, of course, we have the draft and all kinds of good stuff going on there. Senior Bowl is this week. If you got time, go check out our buddy Tyler Fornes. He will be down at the Senior Bowl this week, so check Vikings First and SKOL, the Real Forno show over there. Make sure you follow the rest of our friends out there in the Vikings content world too. Vikings Report with Drew and Ted, Purple and Gold for Days, Minnesota Sports Talk, GG Sportscast, all of those guys. They're all great. They're all really cool guys. Fun to interact with those guys. And we've done a lot of shows and collaborations with them in the past. So, give them a like, give them a follow, give us a like and a follow if you haven't done so already. Thank you again, everybody that follows us every week, that jumps in on the live chats, things like that. We couldn't do this without you, and we really appreciate it. And with that, why don't you take us home, Lance?
So we got a Baltimore and a San Francisco Super Bowl coming up, hopefully, here in the near future. And like I said, I got a feeling that Baltimore is going to go in and they're going to take it this year. So, but like Rhino said, we got a lot in store for, guys coming up here. We got the combine, we got the Senior Bowl tomorrow, and we'll, stuff just to talk about and speculate and all that shortly. So, I hope you all enjoyed the show tonight. And with that being said, we'll see you all next week. Millie and Aubrey, if you're watching, Dad loves and misses you. SKOL.
Have a good weekend, everybody.